Jon Jones, arguably the greatest mixed martial arts athlete of all time, set to return in defense of his undisputed heavyweight title against the most decorated UFC heavyweight of all time, Stipe Miocic. And there's but one man with the true experience to break down these two individuals. My man, the former double champ, UFC Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier. How exciting is this?
Yeah, it's exciting, man. Look at the set for this fight. The fight's going to be fantastic, but also breaking these guys down for the fans, unbelievable. One
of the biggest fights in UFC history, and so much connective tissue between you and these two combatants. And let us just show you the extent of DC's expertise in Octagon against Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic. I know we actually blew your mind with these numbers earlier today. So Johnny Bones spent more time, north of 38 minutes, in the Octagon with you than any other opponent, even more pronounced with Stipe, champ. You fought him 3 times over the course of 48-plus minutes. Tremendous experience with both guys. What's your biggest takeaway?
Just the fact that they say your opponents elevate you. These guys elevated me. I owe a lot of my success to them. I hope that I made them prepare even better to make sure that the fights were what they were, and they were amazing. Great time in my career, and excited to see these dudes compete.
All right, well, DC's going to break down the matchup at Madison Square Garden as only he can, but right now we are going to spin it backwards as we look back at the rivalry. Dateline Las Vegas, it was January 3rd, 2015, that seminal first meeting between DC and Jon Bones Jones. And as many of you know by this point in time, not a whole lot of love lost between the combatants. Take a look.
Jon Jones, you can't run away from me forever. No matter where you go, boy, I'm coming.
I'm not afraid of Jon Jones in any way, shape, or form. So he's not going to come in there and try and bully me. That's not going to happen. So, yeah, I pushed his ass.
Hey, are you still there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. You're the scum of the earth. You are a terrible human.
I'm not saying I will fight you. I said I will kill you.
Jon, do you think... So, Jon, do you think I'm just going to sit there and let you kill me, Jon?
These people cheer for me, and they don't even like me. They just hate Jon Jones.
Doesn't get any more real than these two.
Always been open, you know how I feel. Strike up a match, they don't know how to deal. Eating desire, my wires are higher. This passion is real. Taking the pain, cause I know how to heal. Harder than diamond, won't come better steel. Flip like a lighter, inspiring minds.
I'm sorry that I'm being classless right now. I do not like DC, and this is why I'm being this way.
My gosh, it's crazy to look back at that point in time. This is the greatest rivalry in mixed martial arts history for many people. What do you remember about all the drama and the build-up and the preamble to that first fight?
It was awesome. It was an awesome time because I had never been in the main event, especially in the UFC before. To go into the main event against a guy that I did not like, from the fight at the MGM Grand to the ESPN hot mic. Thank you, ESPN. Dude, it was an amazing time to be fighting a guy, also a guy I respected. I respected his skill, so preparations were awesome.
Whole world was watching, and one last time, that was not me being tossed into the backdrop. I know a lot of people thought it was. That was not me. So a lot to dissect in terms of those 25 minutes against Jon Jones. Nobody hits that telestrator better than you. So take us through that fight back in 2015 and what jumps off the film for you.
You know, Jon, we talk about Jon Jones' fight IQ, and I'll get deeper into fight IQ during fight number 2. But in fight 1, we'll talk a little bit about foot placement. Southpaw conventional foot placement is very important, and why it opens up the window to drive that body kick. Jon Jones has a nasty left body kick. He uses that body kick to try to set up the head kick because the knee elbow starts to tuck. You start to worry about getting the kick to the body, and then he drives it up top. Here, I'm fortunately able to keep my hands up and defend. But it doesn't stop there. His weapons are very diverse. So watch here. When you're this free in the octagon, you try things like flying knees when a guy is pressuring you. That freeness in the octagon, everybody doesn't possess that. Jon Jones does because he's so well-rounded. But he's going to need all of those weapons, Jon. It's not about one or two things to try to keep a real heavyweight off of you. He's going to have to be diverse. He's got to use all of his weapons to try to get past Stipe Miocic.
All right, well, like it or not, genetics does play a role in professional sports. And for Daniel Cormier against Jon Jones, giving up a full foot in reach, what was that experience like relative to maybe your expectations going in?
Well, the experience was fun. It was big. I did hit him, too. I know it doesn't look like it on the clip, but I did land some shots. But you know what I learned about Jon Jones in that fight was that he's much tougher than I gave him credit for. He also is very diverse with his attacks. It's never the same thing. It's body kicks, it's knees, it's elbows. He does a really good job of mixing everything up, and he was much bigger than I expected. Not only the reach, Jon, but his height. He's very long. He almost feels like a blanket draped over the top of you whenever you're in the clinch.
Yeah.
Because he's so tall and he's so big in terms of his upper body.
But heaven forbid on the DC Breakdown show that maybe we get one of your strikes in there. Producers showing Cormier no love here today. But all right, so that's the story on 2015. Second meeting between Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier, your favorite city. Anaheim, California, UFC 214. Now, twice this rematch had been put together. UFC 197, it went away. UFC 200, Jon Jones unable to make the walk. It was done at UFC 214, and here's how it played out.
Jon Jones, get your together. I'm waiting for you.
The wait is over. Jon Jones is back for the first time since April of 2016. Just keep 'em running like you do. Gotta say, pretty good start here for Cormier. See for Jones, he grabs your hands, and comes over with an elbow. Nobody's gonna save you when you're defeated. Oh, DC's done by that head kick. And Jon is all over him. That could be it. That is it! Jon Jones has done it! The new light heavyweight champion of the world!
J.A., as a big fan of sport like you and I are, we know that coaches take information and they apply it. Mike Winkeljohn and Greg Jackson are as good as anyone at doing that. That's what they did with Jones in fight number 2. They knew that they found success with weapons to my body, but a lot of it in fight 1 was kicks and knees. This time, Jon started to use his hands to get to the same result. Me dropping my right elbow to try and set up a high kick, but it was body punches and it was knees to the body. He's really good at that switch knee in there. But ultimately, I'm trying to pressure because I'm the shorter guy having to get close. Jon knows that weapons to the right side will ultimately make me start to drop my elbow. And when I did, Jones was able to find that opening that landed the head kick. But when you look at this action, J.A., my hands are going down to block at the body again.
Right.
Jon wraps that kick over the top, gets that beautiful head kick off that ultimately failed me. But again, I'm going to the body. I've got to go down to land that. Jon's a taller guy.
Yeah.
He will not have as much of a height advantage over Stipe Miocic, but you see right there on display the brain and the fight IQ of Jon Jones.
And the willingness to study film, but now we are 7 years later. He's competing as more of an unknown, a heavyweight, right? Seemingly won't be as fast. So do you still think that he is willing and able to throw volume kicks against Stipe?
He's going to need to.
Yeah.
Because here's the deal. You don't know your limitations until you have to go through them and deal with them and face them. We don't know who he is at heavyweight. We saw him fight Cyril Gane, who was as overwhelmed as anyone I've seen in a big situation before in my life. Stipe will not be that. Stipe Miocic has been here before. He's been in the big fight. Jon will have to be that, though. Because if he's any less than who he was before, I don't know if that's good enough. Because Miocic is so good. But ultimately, that's why the fight is so fun and it's so fascinating. Because if we don't get that kick-heavy Jon Jones, we don't get the tough, durable guy that's willing to do it all, he'll lose to Stipe Miocic, and I don't know what the future would look like for Jon Jones.
Probably not a guy who wants to go off with a loss. We'll see. All right, coming up next, you know what it is. Double champ status attained. DC dives into the key in his monumental upset of Stipe Miocic. Stay with us.
You know, I've accomplished some great things in my life, but there's never been anything quite like this.
Never before has a UFC light heavyweight champion moved up to challenge the active heavyweight champion. That is our reality here and now.
This is crazy, man. Things you could never dream of, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, 2018, the year of Daniel Cormier, unprecedented, rarefied air. That moment never gets old, man.
No, it was the greatest moment of my professional career. To not only go and chase down that big goal, but to accomplish it and do it in that fashion was something that even in my wildest dreams, Jon, I never could have imagined for it to happen in that way. was amazing, but also for it to happen in the way that we expected, because there was this one thing that Stipe does that I knew or felt we could take advantage of, and that might play a part in the fight that's coming up. All right, John, so as we were getting ready for the Stipe Miocic fight and when we were breaking him down, we saw some things in his game that we knew that we could take advantage of, and that was in the clinch, right? As Stipe and I would come together, I was finding a lot of success landing punches whenever he would exit, because when he exits, he tends to leave his left hand low. And he was allowing the clinch positions to kind of play themselves out as they went. Later in the series, you will see that Stipe took initiative in those clinches. But right here, notice when I would redig the underhook, Stipe Miocic's left hand was always low. He was trying to control my overhand with his thumb blocking, but instead, you wrap that punch around that low straight arm, and if you land it with enough impact, that's exactly what you get. That is the thing that Stipe Miocic cannot do in this fight with Jon Jones, because while Jones may not land a punch that can hurt him in that way,
right,
there are different weapons he can use. Elbows, spinning back elbows, all those creative weapons that could be a problem for Stipe Miocic.
All right. That's got to be fun for you to watch that back,
No,
right? I mean, knockouts like that change your checking account balance, I would think. So as we spin it forward, right, and you look at that situation, to what extent do you think Stipe, as the underdog here, can actually realize success in those in-close fighting situations?
You know, I think that is going to be very key to it, because in close, John, he will be able to wear on Jones. We see in different situations, big guys give Jon Jones problems. A lot of his best weapons are at range. If Miocic can get close, he can wear on Jones and truly be a heavyweight, because while Jon Jones is the heavyweight champion of the world, we have seen him fight for 2 minutes inside the octagon against a heavyweight. This is a real heavyweight.
Right.
And he's supposed to weigh over 250 when he stepped inside the octagon. In close, he could find a ton of success.
All right, that's the story on Act 1. Coming up next, we transition to Act 2. Will Stipe exact his revenge? He certainly made some adjustments, and perhaps those could help him in the fight with Johnny Bones. We continue to break down UFC 309 after this.
The greatest of all time, Jon Jones is back.
Stipe Miocic, come get a taste.
Stipe Miocic, the consensus greatest heavyweight of all time.
He wants to go down as the best ever.
Michael Chandler.
This guy has power for days. He is an absolute animal.
I'll see you at the top. Charles Oliveira. This kid's incredible.
One of the best fighters to ever compete in MMA.
The world's most famous arena. Here we go.
All right, welcome back. John Anik, Mike Side, the legend Daniel Cormier. We now dive into the next chapter of your famed trilogy against Stipe Miocic. The second meeting, what was different for you, physically, mindset-wise, or anything going into that second fight?
You know, I was different. I was a different guy, right? After I had the back surgery and the time away. Before the first fight, we were very active. Stipe and I both. It had been a year since we had fought, but there was a difference in Stipe. When we got to Anaheim, I could feel how motivated he was. And I was a bit uncertain because I didn't know who I was after going through what I had gone through. But I felt his motivation. I felt that he was ready to go and try to exact some sort of revenge for what happened in the first fight.
Well, he felt your phenomenal boxing early on. You realized a lot of success in that second meeting before ultimately the result went the other way. But now we're going to have you talk us through that second meeting, Cormier v. Miocic, Act 2.
So going into the second fight with Miocic, I recognized that he had made some changes mentally, but strategically. Him and his team had done some things that would make him much tougher to deal with as the fight went on. But ultimately, this is what Stipe did, and this was on Stipe, right? You can train something, but it's on the athlete to implement it and make it work in the time that it's supposed to work. Stipe recognized that I lift my hands to try to gauge range. So then he changes to body shots, but that didn't happen until the third or fourth round. He recognized that I was leaving the body open when I would throw my jab or whenever I would get close. And then right there, he lands that next one. Body shot low. My hands drop a little bit, and he goes 1-2 up top. This is being a Golden Gloves level boxer. This is Stipe Miocic recognizing that he had me hurt to the body, because regardless of what you show as a poker face, you can't hide when something lands and it's effective. He hit that body shot, boom. Then he goes 1-2 up top, switching the target. Against Jon Jones, if he does not switch the target, if he is going down one path to victory, it will not work. He has got to give him a lot of information to process and he needs to learn on the fly. From round 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, Stipe has got to continue to evolve and adjust if he wants to become the heavyweight champion again. That was a great example of him adjusting on the fly, and that's why he's the greatest heavyweight of all time.
Good.
Oh, another hard left hand to the body. This is a beautiful left hook to the body, Stipe's hand.
Body shots, as you know, are such a weapon in modern-day mixed martial arts. To what extent do you think in the fight with Jon Jones, Stipe Miocic can sort of get inside of range and maybe employ some of those tactics?
Well, first and foremost, it's a lot of boxing from Miocic, so he will have to get closer to Jones. But here's one of the things that Jones and I both do. We both try to manage range and distance. So our hands will come away from our face to try to get close to you. That's when Miocic was timing those body shots. That is a great weapon that he may be able to use against Jon Jones. But the fact that he did that on the fly, that wasn't his game plan going in. He saw it in round 3, right? While I was still hitting him, he probably recognized, oh my goodness, his hands are up. Let me see if this body shot affects him. That's the mind of Stipe Miocic. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
When I watch it, John, while I hate watching myself lose, it's beautiful to watch him do that. And if Jon ain't careful, reaching as he does, can leave himself open to that body shot.
Yeah, nicely broken down. And what a rally by Stipe after dropping those first 3 rounds against Daniel Cormier. So that was the second meeting. What was your mentality now as you sort of push the reset button and get ready for the trilogy at the UFC Apex?
Do or die. It's do or die. You know, the world is in a different place. I'm 41 years old at this point, and I know this is it. Win or lose, it's over. I knew that it was do or die. But I also recognize that Stipe's not rolling over for anybody. Because now, while I respected him in fight 1 and I respected him after fight 2, I knew that he would be even better going into fight 3 than he was in those first 2 encounters. And honestly, to his credit, he was.
One thing I still can't wrap my head around as a Daniel Cormier fan is that his career ended at the UFC Apex during a global pandemic. But it is what it is, and what a fight it was. We take you now back to the 3rd and seminal final meeting between Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier.
Fight 3 was do or die for me, but it was also do or die for Stipe Miocic if he wanted to become the heavyweight champion and be known as the greatest heavyweight of all time. Now, some of these areas that he struggled with early, he still did, but instead, he controlled posture much better when he got to the clinch. Look at it here. That makes it much more difficult for me to redig the underhook on Stipe Miocic. But every time we came together, he ensured that he was the guy initiating the clinch. Look at it right here. Punch, 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 initiate the clinch. And then once he got here, if you're not good at clearing the clinch, don't clear it. Stay there. I did it against Frank Mir and had a ton of success with this position. Just making sure I was close, I was sticky, I was a fly in a honey trap. Making sure that he could not get away from me. That is what you want to do when you're the guy that isn't good at breaking, and Miocic did that. That was another adjustment. I got to tell you, John, I gained so much respect for his fight IQ as the series went on because he improved in the areas that he needed to. Here is where he can cause Jon Jones a lot of problems because he's a true heavyweight. Chael Sonnen, believe him if you want, said Stipe will weigh over 250 when they walk into the octagon. If he's that big and he's that heavy, he can be a real problem for Jon Jones in those in-tight positions.
All right, some of those visuals, Stipe Miocic controlling you there up against the fence. Shades of you against Frank Mir back in the day in your UFC debut, but perhaps something that could be seen here from Stipe in November.
Very smart of Stipe Miocic, right? If you have a problem with dealing with the breaks from the clinch, don't break the clinch, right? Recognize that while that might be one of your deficiencies, go into that, but also extend it. That fight was very close going into the 5th round. Stipe needed to win that round. What did he do? He controlled me, and that was with his posture, right? He was able to control with the left side of my body with his head. He was able to control the right side of my body with the underhook.
Right.
But again, it speaks to the fighting smarts and also taking the information available and applying it. He knew we had already fought 2 times. Getting close, using his strength, using his size was something he was able to take advantage of. And I believe that he can do that against Jones because while he might not be taller, John, he will be the naturally bigger guy at heavyweight.
And certainly he has had ample preparation time for this Jon Jones fight at Madison Square Garden. Some numbers quickly on all of the fights between you and Stipe Miocic. The volume is just absurd. How about you landing 64% of your significant strike attempts? You guys both attempted nearly 500, but in the end, the trilogy goes to the Croatian-American Stipe Miocic. All right, so 5 total fights, almost 90 minutes of octagon time between you and Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic, who, of course, one day will join you in the UFC Hall of Fame. But as we count it down to UFC 309, give us one X factor for both Jones and Miocic to get their hand raised come November 16th.
So for Jon Jones, is going to be taking advantage of opportunities, right? Stipe does leave openings, but you've got to be able to capitalize on them. And knowing Jon Jones, the fighter, he will do that. Elbows will be very obvious for him. He will have to be able to use his range distance and be diverse in the attacks. He's got to throw knees. He's got to throw those nice body kicks, leg kicks. He's got to use all of his weapons. And for Stipe Miocic, guys, it's about being the bully, John. He has got to show this guy, I'm a real heavyweight. I've been here. I've defended this belt. I have fought the best of the best. And the one thing that should give him confidence is watching Jon Jones against other big guys. Thiago Santos, Dominic Reyes. They gave him problems, but none of them were Stipe Miocic. John, this fight is much closer than most people want to believe. And I think they went for a great night in Madison Square Garden.
It's going to be exciting. Sounds like Daniel believes the fight is closer than the odds makers are forecasting. And I do think it's an important point, the lack of overall heavyweight experience for Jon Jones as he makes this title defense come November 16th, when finally the hype gives way to the action. Legacies will be bolstered one way or another. For Daniel Cormier, I'm Jon Anik. Thanks for watching. We will see you live on pay-per-view from Madison Square Garden for UFC 309.